Hey, g'day legends, it's your old mate Jimmy here from NFL Australia and of course, Jim Does SuperCoach, i.e. this show. How we trucking? How we looking? We're a week out from the start of the NFL season. I can't wait. I'm big Kev levels of excited. I always am around this time of year. Anyway, we've already covered off your quarterbacks, your running backs. Today we are going to be talking about the best wide receivers for your SuperCoach team. It is a fascinating question, the wide receiver one, when it comes to SuperCoach, because it's the position with the most variability and volatility when it comes to SuperCoach coaching, right? You look at it, the way it's all set up, the way that we score, we have six wide receivers on the field and 2 on the bench. So you have to get your wide receivers right. And remember, we've always got to look at how we score SuperCoach points when we talk about ranking out the actual players we want to have in our teams, right? So when it comes to wide receivers, it's pretty simple. It comes down to receptions, receiving yards, and of course, touchdowns. So you think about where the value is going to lie. A lot of it actually simply comes down to opportunity, right? If you're being targeted a lot and you're getting a lot of catches, that's an opportunity to score us a lot of SuperCoach points. So think about it. Last year, there were 8 wide receivers with over 100 catches. 8 of them. Out of everybody, there was only 8. And only 7 of them had double-digit touchdowns. So when you think about what you're doing with your SuperCoach team, we have 6 starters. You want to make sure those 6 were within that sort of top 8, right? So who are we going to be looking at? Well, strategy is always important, right? So we can look at the highest price players out there. That obviously correlates with the best SuperCoach players, the best wide receivers. It's what it's all about. But remember, your actual margin for error of getting your wide receivers right is very, very slim. So the strategy has to be bang on. How many guns are we starting? How many rookies? Are we going to have a mid-pricer in there? It actually feels like wide receiver is the one sort of spot on your SuperCoach squad where we're going to be looking at mid-pricers. Those sorts of guys who are still going to give you lots and lots of output, but don't cost the farm like the top-ranked players, right? Because, again, there's a lot of opportunity out there when it comes to wide receivers. A lot of teams have got 1 or 2 really, really good ones, and we've got to figure out which ones we need and want on our SuperCoach team. So let's have a look at this. Who's going to give us the most bang for buck, make us plenty of SuperCoach coin, and be the primos at the end of the season? Well, let's start with the very, very top of the wide receiver tree. And I'll tell you what, ranked first last year by an absolutely staggering 148 total SuperCoach points is our man Jamar Chase. He's got a random apostrophe in the jar and the ma, and he went out there and had all of the catches and all of the touchdowns. What was it, 1,700 plus yards, 17 touchdowns across the season, insane numbers. He was the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy, and he'll have plenty of opportunity to do exactly that again this year because, and I'll tell you what, Jamar Chase might be an absolute lock and load for your first wide receiver spot for the simple fact that Joey Buckets, a.k.a. Joe Burrow, he's going to be slinging that thing. He's going to be slinging the ball. He's going to be under so much pressure from that horrible O-line and the lack of a defense there in Cincinnati. They're going to be in shootout after shootout after shootout, right, for the Bengals. That means plenty of opportunity for more catches for Jamar Chase and his mate T. Higgins and Chase Brown, the running back as well. But Jamar Chase as your rolled gold number 1 wide receiver, you can't really go wrong. He gets a big tick. He's in my team at the moment. I actually did try out a couple of variations without him because of that big price tag of $23.5 million, where he's priced, more than $5 million ahead of the next highest priced wide receiver. But when you're scoring 140 more points than the second ranked dude, you're worth that cash. That's how this works in SuperCoach, right? Talk about bang for buck. Talk about the actual amount of points you're going to be scoring. Jamar Chase is worth it. That's how this works. He is a lock and load for me in wide receiver 1. Bang. Now, the second actual most expensive player I think, in the wide receivers at the moment is, randomly enough, Chris Godwin. But he's injured. So we're going to steer clear of him because obviously he's out and we don't need him on our team. Now, second on most people's wide receiver boards is Justin Jefferson. He's the third most expensive wide receiver. He's at $18.3 million. He came second behind Chase last year for SuperCoach points scored. And he's the one wide receiver in the top 3 or 4 that gives me a little bit of pause. I mean, it's kind of awesome that you get him at a bit of a discount, 18.3 mil compared to the 23.5 of Chase. You're kind of like, well, 5 mil less for Justin Jefferson. The output's going to be the same. 148 fewer SuperCoach points than Chase. Just remember that. The thing is, I'm not worried about really his ability to score a lot of points or his awesome talent. I'm more worried about the bloke throwing him the ball. Rookie J.J. McCarthy. We've got an unproven rookie QB throwing him the ball. We saw that Justin Jefferson was awesome last year with Sam Darnold under center. Is this going to be the same with J.J. McCarthy? I am just going to have to wait and see, I think, right? That Vikings offense, I'm just a little bit worried about it in general. No Jordan Addison to start off the season. You know that Jefferson's going to get all the volume that he needs to score you lots of points. So if you like him, I'm not going to argue with you. But for me, J.J. McCarthy just gives me enough pause that I think there's a couple of other better options out there for my team. The fourth highest priced wide receiver this year is actually Jamar Chase's Cincinnati teammate. T. Higgins, he's priced fourth highest at 18.1 mil. He only finished last year as the 17th best wide receiver overall because he only played 12 games. So in those 12 games, he was a beast. He averaged 30.4 SuperCoach points a game, 5th overall. That's why he's priced so high. The thing is, look, I think you're probably not going to go into a season with Chase and Higgins on your SuperCoach field. If you are, and you're a Cincinnati fan, more power to you. I'm probably going to steer clear of him simply because I know that Chase is going to be out there absolutely all the time as an absolute weapon. He is the first choice wide receiver for Burrow. Higgins is going to feast as well. But at that price point, he might come down a little bit later in the season. So I might just wait and see as well there. But he's still very, very good. Don't get me wrong. Fifth highest is $17.9 million worth of Amon Ra St Brown, who I love. He is a PPR hog. Points per reception. And remember, SuperCoach, you're scoring points for receptions. And Amon Ra had the second most last season of any wide receiver behind our man, Jamar Chase, right? So you think he had 115 overall, which is crazy. He was third overall in scoring in SuperCoach. I think he's great. He was one of my first selected. I've gone back and forth on Amon Ra for the simple fact that there are a couple of questions around this Lions offense, right? Because their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, is now the head coach in Chicago. And is Jameson Williams, is he going to be a little bit better this year? Will he take away a little bit of Amon Ra's volume? Maybe some of the touchdown opportunity that he had last year. Maybe some of that goes to Sam Laporta. Maybe some of that goes to J-Mo. So I feel like his workload might be down just a little bit and priced at 17.9 mil. There's a couple of other names I like a hint more than Amon Ra. But if you're a Lions fan, if you like Amon Ra, I'm not going to argue with you because he is a proven contributor. He's a proven SuperCoach scorer. I love me some Amon Ra. At sixth most expensive is Puka Nacua. I love some Puka. I love him at 17.8 mil. He's awesome, but again, when it comes to questions around your QBs, I want to maybe just steer clear until we have a clear review about what's going on there for the LA Rams. And if Matt Stafford's good, if he's out there slinging it, if he's happy throwing, and if his back doesn't hurt like me getting out of bed or getting off the couch, right? That's where Stafford's at. So Puka Nacua, and I guess for that matter, Devontae Adams as well, are a little bit lower in my tiers at the moment. I'm probably going to steer clear of him just at the outset of the season, but he is an absolute PPR beast as well. So if Stafford shows us a little something those first couple of weeks, we might have to jump on Puka Nacua. At seventh, this is one of the guys in my team, Nico Collins. I love Nico Collins, and I love him at $17.3 million because CJ Stroud and that Houston offense, A, they don't have a run game. B, that O-line is, I don't know, talk about sketchy. He's going to have to throw the ball a ton, is CJ Stroud. And Nico Collins is a weapon. He's one of my favorites to finish in the top 5 wide receivers top 3 as well. He's currently in my SuperCoach squad as well. And if you think about his stats from last year, Nico, yeah, he was injured. He still had 99 targets, and this came with him being injured. And here we go. We now get a chance to have a healthy Nico Collins, a healthy CJ Stroud, in an offense that's going to throw the ball a ton. Sign me up to Nico Collins. He is in my team at the moment. 8th, another one in my team right now, Malik Neighbors. I love Malik Neighbors for the simple fact is he's actually now got a quarterback. Talk about things that basically had question marks around them last year. It was the entire Giants team, and especially the offense, and he was still an absolute monster, was Malik Neighbors. So if you think about the way that Malik Neighbors last year managed to get all the way to a very respectable 3rd overall in receptions with 109, Malik Neighbors now with Russell Wilson as his actual quarterback, and if Rusty goes out, they've got Jameis Winston there as well, and Jackson Dart. That is so much better QB play than he copped last year. And there's still not a giant amount of competition for targets for him. So I love Malik Neighbors. He was one of the very first names I chucked into my SuperCoach squad at the wide receiver position. Love Malik Neighbors. Let's go. I think he's going to feast. And not only could he finish top 5, top 3, he could finish up as your wide receiver 1. So if I can get Chase and Neighbors in the one team, I'm doing it. 9th, we've got Mike Evans, Old Man River at 17 mil. He's super consistent. It's a little bit too pricey for me right now. Mike Evans, at that age, they're going to be targeting him heaps. Baker Mayfield loves to sling it as well. They've got an ascendant rookie, though, who I'm going to talk about in a second, that I probably prefer to have on my team more so than the 9th highest price Mike Evans at 17 mil. Because there's obviously some other names after that you don't mind as well. Outside of the top 10, there are some really, really good wide receiver names. Because at number 10, you've got Rashee Rice. We're all steering clear of him as well because he's been suspended for the first 6 games. So, see you, Rashee. Anyway, outside of that top 10, think about it. Devontae Adams, I just mentioned that questions around the Rams quarterback situation. I don't want any bar of that until we know what's going on if Stafford's healthy and actually throwing the ball pretty nicely. CeeDee Lamb, he is ranked 12th highest overall in terms of price on SuperCoach, 16.6 mil. We know he's a target hog. He also has George Pickens now on his team as well. And look, Dallas is going to have a lot of questions having just traded Micah Parsons to the Packers. They might be involved in a lot of shootouts. CeeDee Lamb is really, really great value with a healthy Dak Prescott as his QB at 16.6 mil. It would not surprise me if he is in a million teams, and he should be. He is awesome. But with Pickens there, maybe the ceiling comes down just a hint. But at the same time, we've just seen Chase and Higgins put up awesome seasons in SuperCoach when it comes to the NFL. So CeeDee Lamb, if you have him in your team, I'm not going to argue with you. The thing is, there's another bloke as well who has a rookie teammate out there after being an awesome wide receiver for us last year. It was Brian Thomas Jr., right? He scored the 4th most SuperCoach points last season in the NFL, and he's the 14th most expensive right now. And he's been in my team basically since SuperCoach opened. I love him. BTJ is great. He's got awesome hair. The thing is, he might get squeezed out in terms of that awesome target share, and is at 16.5 mil because they've got Travis Hunter there now in Jacksonville, who, again, I'll be talking about him in a second. BTJ was everything you wanted in a fantasy wide receiver last year, right? He was absolutely fantastic for us. And the big question will simply come down to whether or not, can he back it up? Probably. But do we see maybe the bloke who had the 12th most catches last year with 87, Brian Thomas Jr., and 133 targets? Does that come down just a hint because we've got Travis Hunter there? Probably. So of those names in that sort of, after the top 10, I love him. But just maybe not as much as maybe the Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors sort of tier of wide receivers. AJ Brown, he's a tough ask as well, I think. 16.5 mil. He could have a massive week 1 against the Cowboys as the Eagles take on them. But AJ Brown, look, Devonta Smith as well for that Eagles offense. I feel like we'll see a little bit more of Jalen Hurts slinging the ball this season. maybe they don't give as many carries to Saquon Barkley. A.J. Brown is awesome, but with Devonta there, with an awesome varied offense, maybe just the ceiling isn't quite there for A.J. But I'm probably going to avoid him. Terry McLaurin re-signs with the Commanders. Love that for him. 15.7 mil in our SuperCoach. But with touchdown regression from last year and Deebo Samuel in town and having held in all the way through preseason, I'm probably going to steer clear of Scary Terry for the minute. He probably doesn't get quite the same workload as well this year as he did last year with Jaden Daniels. They love him. They love each other. But with Deebo there, maybe we might pump the brakes on Terry a second. One of my all-time favorites, though, for this season, though, and I'm sadly a few shekels short of having him in my team for week 1, is Drake London of the Falcons. Maybe not just in week 1 because they take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but at 15.9 mil, Drake London with Michael Penix there instead of Kirk Cousins. The bloke had 158 targets last year. That is a lot. And now with Penix just going, well, he's my favorite target, so I'm just going to throw it to him instead of old Kirk Cousins just trying to go, hey, that's a nice little fella down there. Like, come on. Penix slinging it to Drake London. I love this. And he could go off as well and become a top 5 SuperCoach wide receiver very, very, very easily, I think. But with Penix, look, they've just lost an O-lineman as well for the Falcons. So if I don't start him in week 1, it's not going to break my heart. Well, maybe a little bit. But if he sheds a few dollars in the first couple of weeks, I'll be all over Drake London from that, right? I'll be all over him like Richard Sherman on a mid-2000s wide receiver. So Drake London, I absolutely love. That gets us down in terms of the actual, price sort of tiers. By the time you sort of get to that 15 mil part where you get to like 18, 19, that's when you get the Devonta Smiths, the Cortland Suttons of the world. Then you sort of start getting to those mid-pricer kind of guys, right? Like Ladd McConkey for the Chargers. At 14.6 mil, he's the 20th most expensive wide receiver in SuperCoach. He could also be a PPR beast, but with Keenan Allen there, with the Chargers, with Justin Herbert, not entirely convinced about Ladd McConkey, especially week 1 against the Chiefs. You've got Cortland Sutton, as I mentioned, with Bo Nix in Denver. He's going to be wide receiver 1 for a pretty interesting offense, but everyone is big upping Denver. I might just want to wait and see just a little bit. There's 2 massive names that I love, though, in this mid-price tier. Jackson Smith and Jigba in Seattle, Marvin Harrison Jr. for the Arizona Cardinals. Marv had a bit of a disappointing rookie year. He was really good, but in terms of fantasy, he didn't blow the doors off absolutely everybody. And Jackson Smith and Jigba is probably my favorite in this tier, and he's in my team currently because if you think about that wide receiver room in Seattle this year, you've got a new QB, you've got Sam Darnold, but there's no DK Metcalf, there's no Tyler Lockett. You've got Cooper Kupp, who looked pretty Cooper cooked last year. So I love me some JSN. Xavier Worthy in KC is a really interesting name as well, with Rashee Rice out for the first 6 weeks. That's huge, huge target opportunity there. Ricky Pearsall for the Niners, an absolute, I would love to get him into my team. He should be wide receiver 1 for that weird Niners team with so many questions around Juwan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk. Like, the bloke who got shot last year, Ricky Pearsall, is somehow like their last remaining solid wide receiver. So, love me some Ricky Pearsall. Michael Pittman Jr. at 9.5 mil for the Colts. Not bad. Rome Odunze in his second year for the Chicago Bears at 8 mil. Even Xavier Leggett, having Adam Thielen traded back to the Vikings, clearing out the room there in Carolina. Leggett at 7.7 mil. If you're low on cash and like that sort of slots in, don't mind that. Just saying. And how about Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir up there in Buffalo? You know that Josh Allen and that Buffalo team is going to be going absolute hammer and tongs. Maybe they're worth a look. So those mid-price guys, though, the way that our SuperCoach wide receiver squad is going to basically lay out, you probably got room for 3 or 4 really, really rolled gold studs. And then we've got room probably for another 4 rookies. And we're going to have to play maybe 1 or 2 of the rookies on the field, depending on how the rest of your squad's laid out. So those mid-prices, what you're looking for is targets and opportunity, right? That could be basically trying to look at who could get enough of an opportunity to be turned into a SuperCoach primo at the wide receiver position, right? And for me, it's probably Jackson Smith and Jigba, purely for the simple fact he had 100 catches last year. And with a little bit less competition for actual target share, I'm kind of all over JSN. As I said, Pearsall's a great spot. He's in a great spot there in San Francisco to be a wide receiver number one. And I think week one for me, it's probably going to go with JSN because you think about McConkey on the Chargers up against that Chiefs secondary. The Niners is a bit of an unproven secondary, so I'm probably going to start with our man JSN. One other sort of couple of names to throw out there, Jordan Addison. Keep an eye on him once he comes back from his suspension. Priced at 14.1 mil. Very interesting name. Jacoby Myers for the Raiders. He's going to have lots of opportunity as well there with Geno Smith, an actual QB throwing him the ball for the Raiders. But he's also kind of like, hey, I don't know if I want to be here anymore. So maybe just keep an eye on there. DJ Moore for the Bears. He's at 12.8 mil. Interesting name too. And of course, the big one, the weirdest priced wide receiver I reckon out there, $12.2 million for Tyreek Hill. Now, if you believe in a bounce back, that is just getting an absolute primo at a severe discount. That's if you believe in the Dolphins. Me, I'm still a little bit wary, a little bit leery, so I might just not have Tyreek Hill. And seriously, it comes down to Jackson Smith and Jigba for me and Tyreek Hill. I'm going to go JSN. Just a little bit more reliable. Now, those are the primo-ish, mid-pricer-ish kind of wide receivers. How about the rookies? Well, this is where we make our SuperCoach cash. Rookies. We target the wide receiver rookies that will actually play and make an impact. And it actually gets pretty thin on the ground very, very quickly because you look at the SuperCoach ownership stats, we're all on the same four. Seriously. It's the top four, and then after that top four, ownership drops off a cliff to our man Jaden Higgins with 3.4% of coaches getting him in. So, it's Ted McMillan in Carolina. Huge opportunity there to be wide receiver one next to Xavier Legette for our man Bryce Young for the Panthers. Travis Hunter, mentioned him earlier for Jacksonville. He's going to get plenty of the ball. Next to Brian Thomas Jr., it's an interesting question whether or not you start Hunter on the ground or on your bench because Emeka Egbuka in Tampa, I think he's going to have plenty of opportunity in week one and onwards. Next to our man Mike Evans. With Chris Godwin still coming off his injury, Egbuka could go bang. Just saying. And then the fourth one is Matthew Golden in Green Bay, where if they've suddenly got Micah Parsons, that defense now looks terrifying. Green Bay, I picked it on NFL Australia as basically one of my Super Bowl picks. Them versus Buffalo or them versus Baltimore, what do you reckon? Just saying. Matthew Golden could be rolled golden cash making for us in SuperCoach. So after those four, we're going to have to wait and see. It's a bit of a weird one. If I'm going to rank those four rookies and who I'm going to start on field, I'll probably go Tet, Emeka, Travis Hunter at 3, and then Matthew Golden at 4, especially for week one. That's probably how I'm going to roll out there. But all four should be out there as your cash cows, making you SuperCoach coins. So others will pop up on the radar. Other rookies will actually, make a bit of a splash after weeks 1 and 2. So just keep an eye out on the depth charts and injuries because that'll open up opportunities for your other rookie wide receivers. But for now, there's 4 that we're targeting. I'll be all over that. So the biggest thing for your wide receiver spot in SuperCoach, we've got 6 on field, 2 on the bench. We've got to get these right. Whoever you like, just make sure they're catching plenty of balls and scoring some touchdowns. Who's going to get you the most receptions? Who's going to get the most receiving yards? Who's going to get you the most receiving touchdowns? The way my wide receivers are actually sort of rolling out for week 1 at the moment, remember this is all subject to change, is Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Emeka Egbuka, our man Tet McMillan, Travis Hunter, and Matthew Golden. Thing is, there are so many different permutations, and week to week, this will be the most volatile of the positions in SuperCoach. So, whoever you like, get him in your team. But just remember, you just need those opportunities, need those receptions. That's what you need to be looking for. Like CeeDee Lamb in week 1 could be really, really good against the Eagles in that secondary, but who knows? You could have him there in place of like Nico Collins or Neighbors. Starting Chase and CeeDee Lamb feels awesome, doesn't it? But I don't have them in my team. So there you go. Those are my wide receiver ranks at the moment for your SuperCoach team. Let me know who you like, who I've gotten completely wrong. If there's any other rookies that you're keeping an eye on, let us know. Make sure you subscribe to NFL Australia. We've got our over and under show going up right now. Make sure you're all over Jim Does SuperCoach. You can jump on that on YouTube as well, and of course on your podcast app. So make sure you subscribe, jump on the socials, follow us on Facey, IG, Twitter, etc. Get all around it, because this is Jim Does SuperCoach.